As human beings, and especially as Americans, we're always doing everything for purpose. We are very progress-oriented people. We want to invest in our time and energy in something, and we want a result. We want an outcome. We want things to sort of be worth the investment of the time and energy. Mindfulness turns that whole thing upside down in a certain way, because we're not trying to get anywhere else. Even though there's an impulse, there's an intuition that there's some other way to live. The other way to live is actually to embrace how you are now and see that there's more dimensions to it. So it's not about improving yourself. Mindfulness is not its self-improvement. And when you get there, you'll know it was worth it. There's no improving on yourself because, as the Buddhists would say, you're already a Buddha. Your Buddha nature is complete. And the only thing that's missing is you're realizing that as an actuality. Silence and into wakefulness. So when all is said and done, why are we even having a conversation about mindfulness? Why do you even care enough to pour 8 weeks of your life into trying to be in touch with aspects of your own life unfolding? And I have asked myself that question for a very long time. I mean, I came to the practice when I was 21 years old, and I improbably am still doing it. It was very unlikely that anybody would keep up the practice for that long. And the reason is that, to tell you the truth, I haven't found anything else anywhere near as powerful, as nurturing, and as illuminating as cultivating the capacity for embodied presence in my own life. Because otherwise, so much of it is lost. And we're zoning through our moments to get to better moments at some other time. So over the past decades, I've only found that this is richer and richer the older I get. The more I get into the practice, the more that's what I most care about. Because it influences everything. It influences all of my relationships. It influences my relationship to my family, to my children, to my grandchildren, to nature, to the sky, the air, the light, the trees, to my friends, and to what's going on this planet too, to caring for the planet in a way that I think we are all agreed that we need to care for this planet, that, we've given it a fever. We humans have managed to give it a fever. So the micro and the macro are completely interrelated, and mindfulness, in some sense, can hold it all. We can do our own individual sitting meditation, where we're actually befriending all the voices in our head and all the impulses to go this way a little bit and to go that way a little bit. And on the other hand, to embrace the entirety of the world and other people, and to have our practice not so much be for myself, to have a little more equanimity and a little less stress and so forth, but actually for the benefit of others, for the benefit of society. Because when you are one kind of locus of sanity in the world while you're sitting, practicing non-doing, or walking, or in whatever ways you're cultivating presence of mind and heart, the world is already different, because at least there's one locus of greater sanity, of greater spaciousness, of greater sort of integrity. That's what this is about. It's embodying integrity and wakefulness and heartfulness. That's extraordinary. If in the trajectory of my life I've found something more interesting, more enticing, more potentially beneficial than this, do you think I'd be doing this? No, I'd be doing whatever that was. But I'll tell you, for myself, never found anything that's this profound, this authentic, and this universal. What you are is dropping in to your own essential nature. And your own essential nature is already whole, W-H-O-L-E, already beautiful, already awake. And the challenge is, can we actually live that while we have the chance? There is literally no place to go We're learning how to drop in and be in the only place we are, ever. And there's nothing to do, because this is not a doing, it's a being. And there's no special something to attain, because you're insanely special already. There's nothing more that needs to be added, because you're whole, you're complete. And that's what the root meaning of the word health means, and healing, that you're already whole, you're already complete. So this is a very unusual kind of engagement for us go-getter Americans to engage in, because we have to, in some sense, give up wanting to get someplace else, because there is literally no place else to get. But when you drop into here and now, then interestingly enough, everything changes. And then you're, in some sense, living in a much bigger universe where you have many more degrees of freedom. And that is profoundly liberative, also profoundly satisfying, and tremendously useful to other people, because then you become an instrument for, in some sense, serving the well-being of the world and of other people, and not just a small-minded self-centeredness. This is something that is extremely close to my heart, and in some sense very not too easy to communicate about, because my intention in both practicing mindfulness meditation myself and in teaching it for the vast majority of my adult life is really for it to be a love affair, that it establish a deep connection, not so much between you and me, but between you and you. If you check your watch, you'll see that that's what your watch is saying all the time. It's now. And you're not on the way to any place else, actually, except the grave, ultimately. And you could even think of every out-breath as a kind of mini-death. But here comes another in-breath. So you've got another moment, another opportunity. And the question is, can we make the most of the opportunities that we actually have in life by making the most of the only moments we ever have? And it's always this one. So that's where the power of mindfulness comes in, that it actually gives us a way to be in wise relationship with experience, inner experience, outer experience, however you want to frame it, and find a way to be at home, in your own skin, in this moment, as if you're very life dependent on it. And it does in more ways than you think. And we will be visiting some of those in the course of this program together. Now, I like to say that mindfulness can be thought of in two ways. It's a formal and rather rigorous meditation practice. So there's an element of discipline. And the other way of thinking about mindfulness is that it's actually a way of being. And you could say even way with a capital W. It's a way of being. So it's not a catechism, it's not a philosophy, it's not a good idea, it's not one more thing you need to put on your to-do list. It's a way of being in relationship to everything that's on your to-do list, and everything that probably should come off your to-do list, and the things that need to go on your to-be list, so to speak. Because any kind of a discipline is hard. And I want to be very clear about this. This is, in some sense, the hardest work in the world, to actually drop in and be fully embodied in the present moment with no agenda for getting anywhere, but just the love affair of being where you already are. And then you're ready for anything. Ready for anything. You can tap into your creativity, into your imagination, into your generative capacities, into your, love, what you care about most, who you care about most, when you're fully present in ways that are just not possible when you're zoning through these boring moments to get to other better moments at some other time, which is all merely thinking, it's all concepts. So you don't need to get anything in this program. What you need to do, in some sense, if you choose to accept this assignment from yourself, is to actually drop into being and allow things to actually be held in awareness, whether they're pleasant, whether they're unpleasant, or neither. And that's the discipline. And you do this whether you feel like it on any given day or not. And then the world becomes your meditation teacher, not me. Life itself becomes your meditation teacher. And believe me, it is full of wonderful energy and surprises when you give yourself over to being in relationship to your own life unfolding in that way, and to the world unfolding, nesting your life and what you love and care about most in that same way. I would say that actually it's kind of like an invaluable gift that you could give to yourself. Something that's very hard to describe, that it's like taking a shower on the inside. It's like actually a purification process of a certain kind, and a sort of drilling down to what's deepest and most essential in wakefulness. Because it's not going to take very long for something like that to come up. Whether it's fear, or whether it's pain, or whether it's anger. I mean, that's part of the beauty of this, is the world supplies the curriculum. And then our challenge is, how are we going to be in relationship to it? Will we contract and collapse and react? Or will we recognize and expand and rest in awareness? And since you'll get 1 million opportunities a day, maybe even 1 million opportunities an hour, you got plenty to work with. And that's part of the beauty and the adventure of the real meditation practice. I don't think there's any question that at this particular juncture in time, there's a real sense of uncertainty about where humanity is going. Things are the same as they've always been, but they seem a hell of a lot more so in a certain way. And so there are an awful lot of social and political and economic threats on the horizon, or very much in the front pages of the newspapers every day. And we're trying to find an authentic way to be in relationship to that, because that's also impacting our lives and the lives of our families and children and our work and everything. So if mindfulness is going to be of any value, it has to be of value in the really tough times as well as in the easy times. And yet it's very important to not fall into the classical us and theming that we do so much of the time, where we project onto the other their otherness, who they are, what they don't like, what they don't want, what they are for, and what we're dead against. And so it becomes a kind of using and theming that is a real form of tragedy, given that as human beings, no matter what your ideas, opinions, or political persuasions are, there's about 99.9% commonality on a genetic level and on every other level of all humanity, and yet we kill ourselves over the 0.1%. So how to be in wise relationship with this kind of thing when we really are facing the full catastrophe of the human condition on ever-increasing levels? And the answer is, again, any way you can. I'm not recommending a particular orientation to adopt. I'm recommending holding the entire thing in awareness and listening very, very deeply to what your heart is telling you is authentic, to what your heart is telling you is ethical, to what your heart is telling you you want to impart to the world or to your children or whatever it is, and to trust that, but to keep the inquiry going. So this is a beautiful way of bringing non-duality into the domains of the political discourse and so forth, and not making everybody who's not like you the enemy, the other, even if they drive you insane sometimes. I like to think of mindfulness as a kind of potentially a way in which the entire species, our entire human species, Homo sapiens sapiens, can wake up. And as you know, as you well know, in this day and age, even more than before, the pace at which we are running our lives and moving through our lives is in some sense overwhelming, scorching, and leaves us kind of continually entrained into getting more and more done in less and less time. And there's a certain level of disease associated with that, and also dis-ease. And what this program on mindfulness meditation is aimed to do is actually, in some sense, throw you a life preserver and a life enhancer in the form of this life preserver that actually restores life itself and gives life back to you. Now that's a huge claim. And the only way you can really ascertain whether there's any validity in that or not is to engage in this practice yourself.